Okay, so just to introduce myself, my name is Fiona. I'm a researcher at Munster Technological University in Ireland. And the Irish BBEC is a joint effort between Munster Technological University and the Irish Bioeconomy Foundation. So unfortunately, Kevin couldn't be here today, but we've been working on it together. So I'm going to run through our business plan and structure, the same sort of order that both Katri and Lena have already done, and then spend a bit more time looking at the risks and good practices and lessons learned. So first of all, the market analysis. So the bioeconomy is quite an important part in Ireland, but the analysis has shown that there isn't really any overarching strategy, particularly in relation to skills and training. And in addition, that there's really a lack of information about the skills gaps and the shortages in the sector. So what's needed to actually promote the growth of the bioeconomy in the country. So if we have a look at this, some of you have seen it already. It's a mapping exercise that was done last year at the Irish Bioeconomy Week. It's based on social media posts. So the different colours are the different type of stakeholders. So you have academia and research down here in blue, you have semi-state agencies, government departments, research, primary producers, and so you see Munster Technological University is a big player in the bioeconomy in Ireland, as is the Irish Bioeconomy Foundation. And then the cluster here is actually based out of Munster Technological University. The cluster is for small businesses, trying to provide them with support in bioeconomy. This is a little bit more about the partnerships and alliances. So through both MTU and IBF, we have a really wide variety of connections throughout the country. Through education, obviously then through to the EU BBEC, the BBEC partners, government bodies, both general public and then industry as well. So what do we want from the Irish BBEC? Well, we want it to be an EU leader in circular bioeconomy. Education and training, we want Ireland to be at the cutting edge of sustainable bioeconomy growth in Europe. As a mission, we want the Irish BBEC to be Ireland's flagship destination for bioeconomy skills and training, right through from vocational to university level. And we want to integrate all of the bioeconomy stakeholders in the country and then provide a pathway for them through to the resources and programs in the European BBEC network. So actually funnel the whole thing through. So this is just a mock-up what we did of the website. The idea with the Irish BBEC is that we will have a website that will be like the one-stop shop. Similar to both Finland and Germany, we're not planning a physical new entity. We're going to incorporate it into what we've got already. So we're going to use, as you'll see later on, the resources that we have at MTU, the resources we have through IBF. We're going to have an online platform, so a website. So if you're looking for a job in the bioeconomy, if you're looking for a course in the bioeconomy, if you want to know what the bioeconomy is, if you're in a school and you want to explain to your students what bioeconomy is, somewhere that everybody can go to. Partly one of the reasons, we'll get to it later on, but one of the reasons for not setting up a separate entity was the whole legal implications. So the advantage of having it as part of MTU is that we can just have it under the umbrella of MTU, all of their legal entity, everything to do with processes and policies and procedures can all be done through the university. So that saves a lot of time and a lot of money really at the end of the day. So what does the Irish BBEC want to do? So these are the service offerings. So starting at the top there with schools and community engagement. Mentoring and advisory, we're really looking at technical mentoring because that's the gap that we've identified. Sort of business mentoring already exists from other actors in the field, but we think maybe technical mentoring for businesses is what will be needed. A project library and IP portal, a talent hub for jobs and skills. So we want to have a data mining tool that we actually link in there. Bioeconomy apprenticeships is a really important part that we feel. So MTU has a huge amount of experience in apprenticeships, and we really want to liaise with industry and find out, what do they need? Do they need an apprenticeship in running an anaerobic digester? What then educational institutions in the country will be able to offer that type of service? And then we want to help that educational institution develop the course. So the Irish BBEC isn't going to run courses itself, it's going to market the existing courses in the country. So, for example, there's one bioeconomy and business postgraduate course between MTU and UCD, so we'll market that. And then we'll identify gaps in the market and then develop new courses as well. In the later stages of the Irish BBEC, we'll move into EU inter-university programs, and educational programs obviously runs throughout the whole thing. So as I said, we'll use the existing resources, both the physical buildings, MTU in Kerry and IBF. They're building a new pilot plant in Lachine in Tipperary, which will be a huge boon for industry to be able to take advantage of. Again, resources will use both the MTU panel and the IBF panel, and we'll try to, so for example, if we want to offer coaching days to industry, if we want to offer technical mentoring, then we have panels of people that we can take from, a huge amount of research and technical background that we can pull from. So in our actual project team, we envisaged that you'd have 2 full-time staff members. You'd have a program manager who coordinates the programs and who liaise with the operating team, and then a community manager who would do the marketing, the website, the really important bit of making sure that the Irish BBEC is out there and people are actually engaging with it. So we decided to keep the governance very, very simple. So the project team would be liaising directly with the operations team, which would be run by MTU and IBF as controlling the BBEC. And then the governance board would have a member of the steering committee and then someone from the funding body of it. And then as usual, the steering committee would be members of relevant stakeholders, so academics, industry and government. So the money, so capital expenditure, very low. We only have 15,000 of capital expenditure. That's the website development. That's crucial to get started. And then our costs are really operating expenses. So the cost of running the 2 staff members, this is an annual cost here, just under 130,000 a year. And then ancillary expenses, so travel, online collaborative tools, event hosting, things like that. So the project will be a phased setup. So first of all, we have to get the grant funding. That's step 1. And then year 1, then we would establish the BBEC, activate the network, move into recruitment, form the governance bodies. Year 2 then will be scaling. So developing courses, developing apprenticeships, which is going to be a key part, and then extended stakeholder engagement. And then year 3, we move into looking at sustainability. The reason we've picked a 3-year plan is because, as I'll say in the next slide, we're looking for grant funding. It tends to run on that kind of timescale in Ireland. It tends to run on a 3-year. It doesn't really run on a 5-year cycle. But hopefully in year 3, we'd be looking at EU inter-university programs. We'd be doing risk assessment on our BBEC, and maybe renewing our funding applications if they were starting to run out. So yeah, the funding we require there, so 15,000 as the capex, and then about 150,000 each year for the 3 years. So we have identified some alternative revenue streams apart from just grant funding. However, we don't want to rely on these because really Ireland is a very small country, and there are a lot of actors in the networks. There's a limited pool of both students and people that you can actually get in businesses that you can get into run courses and things for. So some of the options are finder's fees from funneling students into different courses, technical mentoring and advisory role, ideas like industry and coaching days, 1-day training, but the majority will be some sort of grant funding. So the grant funding, before I go on, we're looking at really government funding, so looking at what kind of calls are going on at the moment. Before I move on to the risks and good practice from our pathway, we're hoping that in September we might be invited to present to a bioeconomy implementation group from the government and put our case before them, which would really make a really good case for getting the grant funding in the next set of funding calls. So our experience, risk assessment, I guess, some of the items are going to be very similar across all the BBECs. So the risks there and how we've looked at mitigating them, failure to secure funding, obviously you need to consult, you need to lobby, competition within Ireland from other bio-based organisations. So we've done an extensive scoping analysis of what the Irish bioeconomy landscape is, And we've tried to include other organisations. So even now we're at the point where we're having meetings at the moment to include, say, a few other research organisations in Ireland and bring them in on the whole BBEC idea. Competition from other educational institutions in Ireland. So we've looked at the course offerings. We have identified that MTU has a huge competitive advantage in what they can offer in the sector, particularly in the experience of vocational training. And the idea is to partner with other organisations. So if somebody else has a great course, then absolutely we'll partner with them and we'll market that course. We don't want to reinvent the wheel or try to compete in a very small environment for the students. Lack of engagement with the website. What we want to do is a lot of promotion through our partner websites. So the CertBio team, the cluster, and using the existing dedicated online marketing team that we have to actually promote the website. Lack of demand from industry. Then the big part of the BBEC is going to be engagement. So really assessing what does industry need, talking to industry, what do they want, where are the skills gaps, and really focusing the courses onto what's needed rather than just producing something and hoping that students jump on a course. And then one of the ideas is if there was a sort of a stickering system for the BBEC courses, then that would be something to offer industry and a sort of added plus for them to be able to say, yes, we've done a course that's accredited. One of the big problems that everybody I think will have in an education institution is this time lag. So the demand from industry for skilled workers, and then how long it actually takes in a university to get a program approved and right through to delivery. So what the idea would be to scope existing courses, both Ireland and abroad, identify partnerships, franchising opportunities, and really figure out ways how can we get a more rapid rollout. So are there parts of modules that are already being offered and that can speed up the approval process and really get them out there. And then failure to attract interest is always one of the problems in courses. Partly that's been addressed before with actually scoping the needs and making sure that your courses meet the needs. But then partly if you have a stickering system, a certification, the EBU label, all of those things are a great way to promote the courses and get people really interested in them. So great things that we think came out of the BBECs and the Irish BBEC. So the three parts at the beginning I think were really solid outputs. So we have this compendium of best practice cases that we produced as a group. Then the Centre Readiness Level Framework Survey, which I think is a really excellent tool to be able for any organisation to assess where they are on the journey and how ready they are to proceed. And then the business model canvas, as Rafa explained this morning, that business model canvas is a really useful tool, and it can be rolled out for any potential BBEC organisation. The advantage we had, we were just one country and one small country. So I think we had a huge advantage during the process compared to, say, the multi-country regions. I think the Mediterranean region and the Eastern European regions had a much tougher job, having to think about all the different stakeholders and ideas and backgrounds and also cultural differences between countries. And then what we've learned. So while working in a small country had its advantages, the big disadvantage is you've got a very small pool of people and it's the same stakeholders. So every workshop you do, you're trying to engage the same stakeholders each time. So it gets to the point when they say, I've had enough. So that's why we're really pushing for in the rollout and replication that really we have a system where organisations that have this idea of institutional knowledge that we discussed this morning can assess their level of maturity and jump into the process where they need to meet their requirements. So that if they have this limited pool of stakeholders, that they're only doing the workshops that really need to be done. It's great to have, we have the whole system there so they can look at the different workshops, and I guess it's the challenge will be identifying which ones are going to really make sense and which ones don't. And then I guess the whole idea that it's been a very iterative process. So it looks very simple. All the BBECs were great, and it looks like a very simple, you think, I just made this up last week, but there's a huge amount of work that's gone into it. So I think everyone needs to take credit for all the work that's gone into it. And hopefully we'll make it easier then for anyone trying to replicate or produce a BBEC in the future. And hopefully as well, the lessons we've all learned will help in making these BBECs an actual reality. So as we said last time, let's see which one comes first. And that's it. Thank you very much.